Whoopi Goldberg. The name alone is enough to conjure images of laughter, wisdom, and a spirit that has defied every expectation. She is one of the few entertainers in history to achieve the coveted EGOT, winning an Emmy, a Grammy, an Oscar, and a Tony. Her voice has echoed through generations, from the stand-up stages of New York to the bright lights of Broadway, from the silver screen to the daily debates of The View. But behind the humor, the accolades, and the unmistakable presence lies a story that is far more complex, a story marked by pain, loss, and a resilience that has been tested time and again. At 70, the tragedy of Whoopi Goldberg is beyond heartbreaking, not because she has been defeated, but because she has survived so much and still stands a living testament to the power of endurance. Born Karen Elaine Johnson on November 13, 1955. In the Chelsea neighborhood of Manhattan, Whoopi's earliest memories are not of fame or fortune, but of struggle. Her father, Robert James Johnson Jr., was a clergyman who left the family when Whoopi was just a child. Her mother, Emma, worked multiple jobs, cleaning houses, nursing, and teaching, to keep a roof over their heads. The absence of her father was a wound that never truly healed, a silence that echoed through the small apartment she shared with her mother and brother, Clyde. Emma was a force of nature, determined to give her children a better life, but the weight of poverty was always present, shaping Whoopi's earliest dreams and fears. From a young age, Whoopi was different. She struggled in school, later discovering she was dyslexic, a diagnosis that at the time was rarely understood or accommodated. Teachers labeled her slow, classmates teased her, and the world seemed determined to put her in a box she could never fit. But Emma refused to let her daughter be defined by anyone else's limitations. She encouraged Whoopi's creativity, her wild imagination, and her love of performance. The stage became a refuge, a place where she could transform pain into laughter and loneliness into connection. By her teenage years, Whoopi was already familiar with hardship. She dropped out of high school at 17, unable to keep up with the demands of a system that didn't understand her. The streets of New York were unforgiving, and Whoopi found herself drifting, searching for meaning in a world that seemed to have little room for her. She battled addiction, struggled with homelessness, and faced the kind of despair that could have easily swallowed her whole. But even in her darkest moments, there was a spark, a stubborn refusal to give up, a belief that she was meant for something more. It was during these years that Whoopi discovered the power of comedy. She joined a local theater group, performing in small clubs and community centers, owning her craft and finding her voice. Her humor was raw, honest, and unfiltered, a reflection of the life she had lived. She tackled issues of race, gender, and poverty with a fearlessness that set her apart. Audiences responded not just to her jokes, but to the truth behind them. She was not just making people laugh, she was making them think. The turning point came in the early 1980s, when Whoopi moved to California and began performing her one-woman show, The Spook Show. The show was a revelation, a series of monologues that explored everything from addiction to motherhood, from racism to hope. It caught the attention of director Mike Nichols, who brought the show to Broadway under the title Whoopi Goldberg. The reviews were ecstatic, and suddenly, the girl who had been told she would never amount to anything was the toast of New York. But even as the world celebrated her, Whoopi carried the scars of her past. The pain of her father's abandonment, the struggles with addiction, the battles with self-doubt. All of it lingered just beneath the surface. Fame brought new challenges, the pressure to perform, the scrutiny of the public eye, and the constant fear that it could all be taken away in an instant. The world saw Whoopi Goldberg as a force of nature, a woman whose laughter could fill a room and whose presence could silence a crowd. But behind the scenes, her journey was anything but easy. The sudden rise to fame brought with it a new set of challenges, expectations that were as heavy as the burdens she had carried in her youth. Hollywood, with all its glitz and glamour, was also a place of sharp edges and hidden dangers. For a black woman in the 1980s, the path to stardom was lined with obstacles that few could imagine. Whoopi's breakthrough role came in 1985, when she starred as Sally in Steven Spielberg's adaptation of Alice Walker's The Color Purple. The film was a revelation, and Whoopi's performance was nothing short of extraordinary. She brought Silly to life with a vulnerability and strength that resonated with audiences around the world. The role earned her an Academy Award nomination for Best Actress, and suddenly, Whoopi was not just a comedian or a stage performer, she was a bona fide movie star. But the success of The Color Purple was bittersweet. The film's subject matter, abuse, racism, and the struggle for self-worth, mirrored many of the battles Whoopi had faced in her own life. The emotional toll of the role was immense, and Whoopi found herself grappling with old wounds that had never fully healed. She threw herself into her work, using her art as both a shield and a weapon. But the pain was never far away. In the years that followed, Whoopi's career soared. She starred in a string of successful films, including Jempin, Jack Flash, Clara's Heart, and Ghost, for which she won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress in 1991. She became the first black woman in nearly 50 years to win an Oscar for acting, breaking barriers and shattering stereotypes with every step. Her acceptance speech was a moment of pure joy, but even as she held the golden statue in her hands, Whoopi knew that the road ahead would not be easy. Fame, she discovered, was a double-edged sword. The more successful she became, the more isolated she felt. The pressures of Hollywood were relentless, and the scrutiny of the media was often cruel. Whoopi's personal life became fodder for tabloids, her relationships dissected and her every move analyzed. She married 3 times, each relationship ending in heartbreak. The pain of failed marriages, the loneliness of stardom, and the constant battle to protect her privacy took a toll on her spirit. But perhaps the greatest tragedy of Whoopi's life was the loss of her mother Emma. In 2010, after a long illness, Emma passed away, leaving a void that nothing could fill. Whoopi was devastated. Her mother had been her rock, her confidante, the one person who had always believed in her, no matter what. The grief was overwhelming, and for a time, Whoopi withdrew from the world, struggling to find her footing without the woman who had been her anchor. Through it all, Whoopi continued to work, using her platform to speak out on issues of race, gender, and social justice. She became a fixture on television, joining the cast of The View in 2007 and quickly becoming one of its most recognizable and influential voices. Her candor, humor, and willingness to tackle difficult topics made her a beloved figure to millions. But the pressures of live television and the constant scrutiny of the public eye were never easy to bear. As the years passed, Whoopi's health began to falter. She battled pneumonia and sepsis in 2019, a life-threatening ordeal that left her hospitalized for weeks. The experience was a stark reminder of her own mortality. And for the first time, Whoopi spoke openly about the fear and vulnerability that had always lingered beneath her tough exterior. "I almost left this earth," she admitted, her voice trembling with emotion. It was a wake-up call. Yet, even in the face of illness and loss, Whoopi Goldberg's resilience never wavered. She continued to show up, to fight, to laugh, and to inspire. But the scars of her journey, visible and invisible, remained, a testament to a life lived on the edge of heartbreak and hope. Whoopi Goldberg's story is not just one of personal struggle, but also of public battles fought in the harshest of spotlights. As her fame grew, so did the expectations placed upon her shoulders, not just as an entertainer, but as a symbol. For millions, she became a beacon of hope, proof that it was possible to rise above adversity and claim a place in a world that so often shut its doors to people who looked like her. But the weight of representation is heavy, and Whoopi felt its pressure every day. Her time on The View brought both new opportunities and new challenges. The show, known for its heated debates and unfiltered opinions, became a platform for Whoopi to speak her truth. She tackled issues of race, politics, and women's rights with a candor that was both refreshing and, at times, controversial. Her willingness to confront uncomfortable topics made her a target for criticism, and she often found herself at the center of public firestorms. Social media, with its relentless cycle of outrage and judgment, amplified every misstep, every misunderstood comment, every moment of vulnerability. Yet, Whoopi never shied away from the conversation. She understood that her voice carried weight, and she used it to advocate for those who had none. But the cost was real. The constant scrutiny, the online harassment, and the pressure to always be on took a toll on her mental health. There were days when the laughter came less easily, when the mask of humor slipped, and the pain beneath was visible for all to see. Despite the challenges, Whoopi's career continued to evolve. She returned to the stage, produced films and television shows, and lent her voice to animated classics like The Lion King. She wrote books, mentored young artists, and became a cultural icon whose influence extended far beyond the entertainment industry. But with every new achievement, the shadows of her past lingered. The trauma of childhood poverty, the sting of racism, the heartbreak of failed relationships, and the grief of losing her mother. All of it shaped the woman she became. One of the most poignant chapters in Whoopi's life is her relationship with her only daughter, Alexandria, Alex Martin. Whoopi became a mother at just 18, navigating the challenges of single parenthood while still trying to find her own place in the world. The bond between mother and daughter was deep, but not without its struggles. Whoopi's demanding career often kept her away from home, and the pressures of fame sometimes created distance between them. Yet, through every trial, their love endured. Alex would later describe her mother as both her greatest supporter and her toughest critic, a woman who pushed her to be strong, independent, and unafraid to speak her mind. As Whoopi entered her later years, she began to reflect more openly on the cost of her success. In interviews, she spoke candidly about loneliness, about the sacrifices she had made, and about the pain that never fully faded. She admitted to feeling misunderstood, to longing for the simple joys of anonymity, to wishing at times that she could just be Karen Johnson again, the girl from Chelsea who dreamed of making people laugh. Health challenges continued to haunt her. In addition to her battle with pneumonia and sepsis, Whoopi has faced chronic back pain and other ailments that have, at times, forced her to step back from her work. Each setback was a reminder of her own vulnerability, of the fragility that lies beneath even the strongest exterior. But true to form, Whoopi met each challenge with a mix of humor and grit, refusing to let illness define her. Through it all, she has remained fiercely independent. She has spoken openly about her decision not to remarry, about her belief in living life on her own terms, and about the importance of self-reliance. "I don't want somebody in my house," she once joked. "I'm the boss of me." It is a philosophy born of necessity. shaped by a lifetime of learning to survive in a world that rarely offered her a safety net. Whoopi Goldberg's journey is a testament to the power of resilience. But it is also a reminder of the cost of greatness. Behind every laugh, every award, every moment in the spotlight, there is a story of heartbreak, sacrifice, and the quiet courage to keep going, no matter how heavy the burden. As Whoopi Goldberg moved through her 60s and into her 70s, the world continued to see her as a symbol of strength and perseverance. Yet, the private battles she faced grew more profound, and the tragedies that marked her journey became even more poignant. The loss of her mother, Emma, remained a wound that never truly healed. Whoopi often spoke of her mother's wisdom, her unwavering support, and the sacrifices she made to give her children a fighting chance. In quiet moments, Whoopi would admit that every success, every standing ovation, was shadowed by the absence of the woman who had been her greatest champion. The pain of loss was compounded by the realities of aging. Whoopi's health, once robust, became increasingly fragile. The pneumonia and sepsis that nearly claimed her life in 2019 left her with lingering fatigue and a new awareness of her own mortality. She spoke candidly about the fear that gripped her during those weeks in the hospital. The uncertainty, the loneliness, and the realization that even the strongest among us are not invincible. "I was close to leaving this earth," she said, her voice heavy with emotion. "It changes you. It makes you see what really matters." For Whoopi, what mattered most was family. Her relationship with her daughter, Alex, deepened as they both navigated the complexities of adulthood and motherhood. Alex, now a mother herself, often turned to Whoopi for advice and comfort. The two women, bound by love and shared experience, found solace in each other's company. Whoopi became a grandmother, and the arrival of her grandchildren brought new joy into her life. A chance to nurture, to guide, and to pass on the lessons she had learned through hardship and triumph. But even as she cherished these moments, Whoopi could not escape the shadows of her past. The trauma of childhood poverty, the sting of racism, and the pain of public scrutiny continued to haunt her. She watched as the world changed, as new generations rose up to demand justice and equality. And she wondered if her own struggles had made a difference. The fight for civil rights, for representation, for dignity. These were battles she had waged her entire life. And yet, the work was far from finished. Professionally, Whoopi remained as active as ever. She continued to appear on The View, her voice as sharp and relevant as ever. She took on new acting roles, lent her talents to animated films, and produced projects that highlighted stories often overlooked by mainstream Hollywood. But the demands of her career were relentless, and the pressure to remain relevant in an industry obsessed with youth and novelty was exhausting. Whoopi spoke openly about ageism, about the challenges of being a Black woman in entertainment, and about the need for more diverse voices in every corner of the industry. Despite her achievements, Whoopi often felt isolated. The friendships she had built over decades were tested by time, distance, and the realities of fame. She lost friends to illness, to addiction, to the relentless march of time. Each loss was a reminder of her own vulnerability, of the fragility of life, and of the importance of cherishing every moment. In interviews, she spoke of loneliness, of the longing for connection, and of the difficulty of finding true companionship in a world that so often saw her as a persona rather than a person. Yet, through every trial, Whoopi Goldberg's spirit endured. She found comfort in her art, in her family, and in the knowledge that her story had inspired millions. She used her platform to advocate for mental health, for compassion, and for the power of laughter to heal even the deepest wounds. Her legacy, she hoped, would not be measured by awards or accolades, but by the lives she touched and the barriers she helped to break. At 70, Whoopi Goldberg stands as a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Her journey is one of heartbreak and hope, of tragedy and triumph, of a woman who refused to be defined by her pain. The world may see her as a legend, but behind the legend is a story that is, in every sense, beyond heartbreaking. In the quiet moments away from the cameras, Whoopi Goldberg often reflects on the winding path her life has taken. The world knows her as a trailblazer, a comedian, an actress, a talk show host, and a voice for justice. But in her own eyes, she is still Karen, the girl from Chelsea who learned to survive by making people laugh, who found strength in her mother's love, and who carried the weight of her family's dreams on her shoulders. The journey from those humble beginnings to the heights of Hollywood has been anything but smooth, and the scars of that journey are never far from the surface. Whoopi's resilience is legendary, but it has come at a cost. The relentless pace of her career, the constant pressure to perform, and the burden of being a symbol for so many have left her with little time to care for herself. She has spoken openly about her struggles with depression, about the dark days when laughter felt impossible, and about the importance of seeking help when the weight of the world becomes too much to bear. It's okay to not be okay, she has said, her voice carrying the wisdom of someone who has walked through fire and emerged, if not unscathed, then at least unbroken. Her advocacy for mental health is deeply personal. Whoopi knows what it means to feel alone, to battle demons that no one else can see, and to wonder if the pain will ever end. She has used her platform to encourage others to speak out, to seek support, and to reject the stigma that so often surrounds mental illness. For Whoopi, the greatest tragedy is not in the suffering itself, but in the silence that keeps so many from finding the help they need. As she has grown older, Whoopi has become more reflective, more willing to share the lessons she has learned. She speaks of forgiveness, not just of others, but of herself. The mistakes, the regrets, the moments of weakness, they are all part of the tapestry of her life. She urges others to embrace their flaws, to find beauty in imperfection, and to remember that every scar tells a story of survival. You don't get to be my age without making a few mistakes. She laughs, her eyes twinkling with mischief and hard-won wisdom. Family remains at the center of Whoopi's world. Her daughter, Alex, and her grandchildren are her greatest joys, the anchors that keep her grounded in a world that is often chaotic and unpredictable. She delights in the small moments, cooking a meal, sharing a story, watching her grandchildren grow. These are the memories she treasures, the moments that remind her of what truly matters. In their laughter, she hears echoes of her own childhood, of the mother who taught her to dream, and of the resilience that has carried her through every storm. Professionally, Whoopi continues to defy expectations. She remains a vital presence on The View, her insights and humor as sharp as ever. She takes on new projects, mentors young artists, and uses her influence to champion causes close to her heart. She is a fierce advocate for social justice, for equality, and for the power of storytelling to change the world. Her legacy is not just in the roles she has played, but in the doors she has opened for others, in the conversations she has started, and in the hope she has given to those who see themselves in her journey. Yet, even as she celebrates her achievements, Whoopi is acutely aware of the fragility of life. The losses she has endured, the death of her mother, the end of marriages, the passing of friends, have left her with a deep sense of gratitude for every day. She knows that happiness is fleeting, that pain is inevitable, and that the only certainty is change. But she also knows that love endures, that laughter heals, and that the human spirit is capable of rising, again and again, from the ashes of heartbreak. At 70, Whoopi Goldberg's story is far from over. She continues to inspire, to challenge, and to remind us all that even in the face of tragedy, there is always hope. At 70, Whoopi Goldberg stands at the intersection of legacy and vulnerability. Her life a testament to the power of survival and the cost of greatness. The world sees her as a legend, a woman who has broken barriers and redefined what is possible for Black women in entertainment. But behind the accolades and the laughter is a story marked by heartbreak, sacrifice, and the quiet courage to keep moving forward, even when the path is shrouded in darkness. In recent years, Whoopi has become more open about the realities of aging in the public eye. She speaks candidly about the aches and pains that come with time, about the fear of being forgotten in an industry that worships youth, and about the bittersweet nature of watching the world change around her. She has seen friends and colleagues fade from the spotlight, their contributions too often overlooked, their stories left untold. Whoopi is determined that her own story will not end in silence. She continues to write, to perform, to speak out, her voice as vital and necessary as ever. Her home, once a bustling hub of activity, has grown quieter over the years. The laughter of grandchildren fills the rooms on holidays and special occasions, but there are also long stretches of solitude. Whoopi has learned to find comfort in her own company, to embrace the peace that comes with reflection, and to cherish the memories that have shaped her life. She keeps photographs of her mother and brother close by, reminders of the love that sustained her through the hardest times. In the stillness, she finds strength, a reminder that she has survived every storm and that she is still here, still standing. Financially, Whoopi is secure, but she has never been one to chase wealth for its own sake. Her success has allowed her to support causes she believes in, to give back to the communities that shaped her, and to create opportunities for others. She is a generous philanthropist, quietly funding scholarships, supporting arts programs, and lending her voice to campaigns for justice and equality. For Whoopi, true wealth is measured not in dollars, but in the impact she leaves behind. Her health remains a constant concern. The aftermath of her battle with pneumonia and sepsis lingers, and she is mindful of the need to care for herself. She has spoken about the importance of rest, of listening to her body, and of seeking help when needed. The days of pushing through pain for the sake of performance are behind her. Now, she prioritizes wellness, both physical and mental, understanding that her greatest gift to her family and her audience is her continued presence. Whoopi's relationship with her daughter, Alex, and her grandchildren is a source of endless pride and joy. She delights in their achievements, supports their dreams, and offers guidance drawn from a lifetime of hard-won wisdom. The bond between mother and daughter, once tested by distance and the demands of fame, has grown stronger with time. Together, they have weathered loss, celebrated triumphs, and built a legacy of love that will endure long after the spotlight fades. Looking back, Whoopi is honest about the pain that has shaped her journey. The heartbreak of failed relationships, the sting of public criticism, the loneliness that comes with fame, all of it has left its mark. But she is equally honest about the joy, the laughter, and the moments of connection that have made it all worthwhile. She urges others to embrace their own stories, to find meaning in the struggle, and to never lose sight of the light that exists even in the darkest times. As she enters her 8th decade, Whoopi Goldberg remains a force of nature, a woman who has faced tragedy with grace who has turned pain into purpose, and who continues to inspire millions with her resilience and authenticity. Her story is a reminder that greatness is not measured by the absence of suffering, but by the ability to rise, again and again, in the face of adversity. If her journey has touched you, if her courage has inspired you, remember that behind every legend is a human being, fragile, flawed, and fiercely alive. Whoopi Goldberg's legacy is not just in the awards she has won or the barriers she has broken, but in the example she sets for us all, that even when the tragedy is beyond heartbreaking, hope endures and the spirit survives.